Hey there, fourth grade. It's your bearded friend, Mr. Remedies, coming to you with today's mini lesson. We did it. We made it to a Friday. Unless, of course, you're watching it on Saturday, then hey, you know what? Made it to a Saturday, and you're awesome just the same. We are still right in the middle of our return to poetry. We are learning and exploring the different types of poetry. We're on lesson number 3. We're talking about limericks today. Okay? As always, you know what's next. We're going to talk about our goals, where we're headed, how we're going to get there. So let's take a look and see what those are now. Our learning goal for today is very similar to what they've been for the past 2 days. We are learning to recognize and understand characteristics of a limerick. Okay? Along the way, you can check your success by being able to say some I can statements. They're on your screen. I can define poem, which is something we've been doing all week. I can define the new word nonsensical, and I can identify rhyme in a poem. Okay, hit those along the way. I think you'll have reached your goal with not too much of a problem at all. All right. As always, we have some vocabulary we need to talk about, and then we'll move into some examples. So, vocabulary words today. We have 2 main pieces of vocabulary that we're talking about today. However, one of them, we've been on it for a couple of days. That's the word poem. As you guys are well aware of, a poem is a piece of writing that is created in an interesting way to express a feeling, create a mental picture, tell a story, or make a sound. Our new word today is nonsensical, okay? And so nonsensical means silly, illogical, or doesn't make much sense. Kind of like turning your computer sideways so that way you appear sideways on your computer screen. So if I did the whole lesson like this, sideways on your computer screen, that would be rather silly and illogical, and it might be a little distracting to you guys, so that doesn't make much sense to do that. But will I? I don't know. You'll just probably have to keep watching. Okay. All right, guys. So if we're studying all about the characteristics of limericks, I bet it's a good idea to ask you guys, what is a limerick? Okay? Boom. This thing's a limerick right here. From our book, What Are You Glad About? What Are You Mad About? By Judith Viorst. This poem, Shivery Winter Song, is a limerick. Right? So let's give it a listen and see if we can pick up on some unique characteristics that maybe this poem has that the others we've studied this week do not. Right? Shivery Winter Song. I'm freezing, I'm frozen, I'm froze, from my head to the tips of my toes. Both my right and left thumb are exceedingly numb, and I may be am missing a nose. I'm shaking, I'm shaken, I'm shook. How'd I'd love to be reading a book, somewhere cozy and nice, have my ears turned to ice. Couldn't somebody please take a look? I'm chilly, I'm chilling, I'm chilled. If the winter were done, I'd be thrilled. I keep thinking real hard of late June, our backyard, and my dad making burgers grilled. But meanwhile I shiver and sting from the biting winds Jan and Feb bring. This is weather I hate, so I'll just hibernate and don't bother to call me till spring. Just about this limerick. Is there anything that pops out to you? Anything that stands out as unique? If Mr. Remedies had to take a gander, I would say that in these 3 lines 1, 2, and 5 of each stanza, boom, lines 1, 2, and 5 of each stanza, they rhyme. Froze, toes, and nose. In the second stanza, we see shook, book, and look. Okay? So in a limerick, that is one defining characteristic, is that lines 1, 2, and 5 of each stanza, they rhyme. Okay? Do you notice anything else about rhyming or anything? Boom. Right? Lines 3 and 4 of each stanza rhyme as well. They rhyme with each other. So I see thumb and numb, nice and ice, and hard and yard. Right? So I think those are some pretty unique characteristics. And if you think back to Mr. Remedies just reading it to you, what is that other unique characteristic? It definitely has. Right? It's a little funny. It's a little goofy. Okay, I know that because the speaker is asking if he's missing his nose. They're asking if their ears turn to ice. That's pretty funny. You know, that's got to be real cold. Okay. And I also noticed that it's a little bit funny that they are so angry at the weather that they don't want to be called till spring, till it's all over with. Okay. Anything else you guys notice? I think there's a noticeable rhythm. Like there is a definitely like a appropriately rhythm to it. I think there's an appropriate title because it does say Shivery Winter Song. So there does have some nice rhythm to it. Okay. So what makes a limerick a limerick? Let's look at the solid identifiable characteristics. So it has a specific number of lines. Okay. It has to have at least 5 lines, or if it has more than 5 lines, then each stanza has to have 5 lines. Each little quote unquote paragraph of a poem has to have 5 lines. If it doesn't have 5 lines, it is not a limerick. Right? It does have to rhyme. Rhyming is a characteristic of a limerick. As we just talked about, lines 1, 2, and 5 have to rhyme with each other, and lines 3 and 4 have to rhyme with each other. Okay? If you have some of the rhyming down, but not all of it, not a limerick. Right? It has to have a rhythm. Okay? Lines 1, 2, and 5 have the same rhythm, so they have the general same number of syllables in it. Right? And lines 3 and 4 have the same rhythm. Right? Which, if those lines are rhyming with each other, I think that makes perfect sense. Right? And does it make sense? Not always, but in reality, it usually doesn't. Right? So let's knock out what a limerick is. Let's come up with a pretty solid definition that kind of wraps up all these characteristics. A limerick is a rhyming poem that is usually surprising, funny, and nonsensical. All right, guys, so let's review. What is a limerick? What did we talk about today? Well, we talked about the fact that one type of poem is the limerick. We learned that a limerick is a rhyming poem that is usually surprising, funny, and often nonsensical. Right? We know that limericks have definite rhythm, and limericks have definite rhyming patterns. All right? I hope you guys have enjoyed this lesson on limericks, and I've been Mr. Remedies, being a little nonsensical myself, and you know what? We will see you down the road.